Hey everyone, so this video is about making markers and zoom presets, adjusting the way that we see the edit window, and about using the tab key to make selections and jump around inside of our tracks. So let's get going. Okay, so let's start off with using the tab key when we're editing and selecting things. So we've got this acoustic guitar part right here. And what I'm going to do is first make sure that I have a setting off, and that is this key right here. And that is this key right here, tab to transients. So I'm going to make sure that's off. And we'll deal with when it's on as well in just a moment, but let's start with off. So I can very easily hop to the exact start or end of a clip by hitting tab. So tab, and you'll notice it goes right to the start of this clip, and then tab again gets me right to the end of that clip. And I can reverse it by holding down Option on the Mac or Alt on the PC. So holding down Option and hitting tab goes the other direction. That is pretty useful. It's nice to be able to hop between those different clips. So here might be more obvious. So there's a clip boundary. There's the next one, there's the next one, there's the next one, and then I'm going to hold down Option and go the other direction. Now if I want to make a selection of a clip this way, I just need to hold down Shift while I do this. So I'm at the clip start, I'm going to hold down Shift and then hit tab, and then I get a selection of that section. And Shift, holding down Shift and tab, and then we can do it the opposite direction with Option again. So say that I'm here and I want to select backwards. I go Shift, Option, or Alt, and Tab, and that will go the opposite directions. Remember, Option is either the do to all or the reverse key. So anytime you hold down Option or Alt, you're usually going to get the opposite functionality of whatever you're doing, right? So if I'm tabbing forwards without Option, once I hold down Option, it's going to go backwards. And then again, it also has that effect of do to all, which we'll see in a minute in a couple other spots in our view. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom in a little bit and we're going to turn tab to transients on. So again, that's this key here, tab to transients, and what that is the start of a sound. So now if I hit tab, it's going to hop and there must be a little bit of a sound there. Let's check and see. I'm going to zoom in. It's very sensitive, and notice the real start of that audio, I couldn't even see it at that moment, but it's actually right here. It's catching some audio at the beginning of this guitar chord or whatever it is. I'm going to solo this track so we can really hear it. So notice it's at the start of a sound. All right. And let's go back actually. So here's that sound. And we can't even really hear it. It's like a foot tap or something. It's really quiet. But tab to transients will catch it. So start of a sound, and if I want to go the other direction, what do? Well, the reverse key is Option, and it's going to hop back from one sound to the next, and it's always the start of the sound. Now if I can make a selection of, say, one sound by using tab to transients, and then using Shift and hitting tab, and now I have exactly the first hit of that guitar chord. And if I do it again, Shift and tab, I get now two. It does a great job of selecting those, right? I can do one more. And that's that hit with the pick against the strings, right? Great way of selecting specific sounds. So tab to transients, and then to get to the start of the sound, you can hit tab until you get what you want, and then Shift to select. And then to go the opposite direction, it's always Option. And I can also Option select back. So say I want to get from the end of this sound to the beginning here, I can do Option to reverse it, Shift for selecting, and then hit tab, and it grabs backwards, and I get from the start of the sound all the way until this next one will start. It will stop there at that point. Pretty cool. Okay, and now let's cover a couple of things that are really important about customizing how we see things in the edit window. So you'll notice I made some quick changes in order to get zoomed in here. So let's learn how some of those things work. First one is just changing track order. So I'm going to shrink this back down and we'll talk about how I do that. But here's tons of tracks. If I want to do a little organizing, I have 3 places I can do that. So let's say that I needed to move more drums over here somewhere near the acoustic guitar for some reason. I can click the nameplate in the mix window, which is where I am right now, and click and drag and move it over there. I can also do that in the edit window. So there's that more drums track. Maybe I can click and drag it and move it back to near where it was. Right, so click and drag nameplates. You can do it with multiples. Right, so I can shift click to get multiple tracks selected, and then I can click and drag and I will get all 4 of them moving, or however many I've selected. Then I can also do it in the track sidebar here, which is a pretty easy place to do it. So there's that more drums track, and I can just click and drag down to my acoustic, right? Click and drag. So a very easy way to reorder tracks. I'm going to hide that menu. Now let's look at the zoomer tool. So if I've got the zoomer tool, if I click a single time, it jumps in kind of 1 level of zoom inward, and wherever I clicked ends up at the center of my edit window. Right, so if I click, say right here where this marker is, 4, notice the marker is now in the center because I clicked right there. And then if I hold Option, you'll notice on the button it becomes a minus instead of a plus on the zoomer tool, and then I can back out. So again, Option is the reverse key. If you ever need like opposite functionality, Option is your best guess. If I double click the zoomer tool, I get the track zoomed out to the longest track that I have, or the last marker, so that also counts. Okay, really cool trick. So say that I know that I need to select a little bit of audio right here and I want to just zoom that to the biggest thing I can get. I can use zoom toggle, and that is this little guy right here. So these 4 little arrows going outward, that will take whatever selection I make and zoom it to the maximum it can get to. At least that's the way my preferences are set up, and they should be for you too, as long as the defaults are set. So here I go. And there it is. Everything I selected at the largest zoom level I can get. Right? So that's a really great quick way to go back and forth between being zoomed out and being zoomed in is zoom toggle. So that's this guy again. So, oh, there's that audio maximized to the width of my screen, of my edit window. And then it remembers the previous place. So when you click it again, you get right back to where you were in the previous zoom settings. Now, it's a little annoying to go up and click that to get zoom toggle to work. So there's a couple ways to do it. You can do Option. Always a good guess to use Option, right? Option or Alt and the letter E. That will do a zoom toggle, and that one didn't work for me because I didn't have a selection just then. So here I go, Option E, and there's my zoom toggle. So in, out, right? Zoomed in, zoomed out. And then you can also just hit E to do the same thing, no option, but that only works if this little AZ button is lit. And that makes the regular keyboard focus on this window. Usually that's too annoying to check, so I just go ahead and use Option or Alt, and then you don't have to worry about this guy being on. But if that's off and I hit E, nothing happens. If it's on and I hit E, I get zoom toggle. Okay, so we can also zoom in and out with these tools here, these buttons here. So I can zoom in with the right arrow and zoom out with the left arrow. I tend to use Command and then the bracket, or Control on a Windows machine, and then the right and left square brackets do that same thing. So that's the shortcut for that if you want to use that, rather than having to go up and find these skinny little arrows here. Then we can also say that you have a track where the audio is recorded in pretty quietly, and it's a little hard to see the waveforms to work with them. So I'm going to go in on this kit condenser thing. Here I'm going to zoom in and notice that the waveform is a little bit, I mean this one's actually fine, but here, this one right here, See that kit ribbon? That guy's pretty hard to see, right? So I can just zoom in on the waveform itself, not changing the actual volume with this audio zoom in up and down. So if I can do that, and notice now it's making the other ones crazy because these are grouped. But that's that guy. And it was about there, I think, before. And then we can also do something similar with MIDI, which is I can go to a MIDI track and it only works in, so here's a MIDI track, right? These guys. So I can have it, if it's in MIDI notes view, so I use the track view selector and I go to notes. Notice how skinny these are and I get a lot of keys, but maybe I want to zoom in and have a little bit bigger chunks to look at. I can use the MIDI zoom here to make them look larger. So now I'm seeing much bigger blocks of MIDI, but I don't have as big a range represented. Notice I only have about an octave here now. And as I shrink this, lots more keys, right? So that's that zoom. And the last thing with these buttons is these arrows, if you hold down Command and or Control on the Windows and drag, you'll get a smooth horizontal zoom. So you can actually click and drag left or right. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm dragging to my right and then dragging to my left to zoom out while holding down Command or Control. Let's look at the last set of buttons that are in this zoom customization area. So we have our waveform, our general horizontal zooms, our MIDI zoom, and then we have these 5 zoom presets. So say that you have a specific zoom level that you use quite often. So typically we'd have to do a bunch of clicks in order to get to different sizes or keep adjusting or use our shortcut keys to get there. So one quick way to get to common zoom settings that you like are to set them in the presets here, and you have 5. So if I say like this particular zoom level, I'm going to actually change these just a little bit larger track heights. The zoom presets won't set the track heights, but they'll set the horizontal zoom for you. So let's say we have one where we like it about here. I can command click or control on a Windows machine or hold down. So I'll do 2 and then we can see how both work. So command click the one and you'll notice it kind of blinks. And now this zoom level is set. And then I'm going to zoom in a bit more. Okay, here's another zoom level. I'm going to hold down on the 2 by clicking and holding. And I'm going to do Save Zoom Preset. And you'll notice you get the same blink. And then that is saved. And then I'll go even farther a little bit just to save this level of zoom in 3. I'm going to do it with Command again. Okay, so now I can click 1 and I get that level of zoom. 2. It's zoomed in like it was before. And then the third one, the most zoomed. So we have 5 of those settings that we can recall really quickly rather than having to either click to get there a bunch of times or use the shortcut. And I actually tend to use the shortcut more than I use any zoom presets just because they get me there so fast anyway, and I still don't have to go up here to do it, right? Cool, that's zoom presets. All right, so now let's talk about track heights. So a couple ways to do this. So it's really useful to have small height tracks if you've got tons of tracks so that you can navigate around. But often in order to work in the track and edit in the track, you need to be able to change the height of the track so you can really see. So Zoom Toggle kind of did that for us, right? Remember, we could just select and then Option E and it right away zooms to the right thing. But I also want to be able to do it with multiple tracks, and sometimes I just want to quickly just resize and look at something a little bit. So let's say we have this, whatever this audio is. I can change the track height in a couple of different ways. So one is this ruler here, and on MIDI tracks it looks like piano keys, but it works the same way. So click on it and you will see that there's a series of sets from micro to fit to window of sizes. So micro is really, really tiny, and you also lose some of your menu controls when it gets that small. So know that if you're looking for a menu control and you can't see it, might be that your track height is too small. Oh, now suddenly we've got our playlist views and things like that, automation. So I'm going to click on this and go medium, And then remember, Option is the do to all key. So if I hold Option while I adjust a track height, say maybe jumbo, all my tracks go to jumbo. So you can very quickly set all your tracks height by Option clicking and going small. Okay, I want everybody small. I'm going to look around, and then maybe I don't want just this guitar track jumbo. That works. Or I can Option click, get everybody medium. Okay, so you can also resize your track heights with at the bottom of each track. You'll see this little dual arrow in a line, and you can click and pull up and down there to drag the track size. And then you can also Option click there and get all the tracks resized that way. It's a little confusing to your eye when you do that, but I'm just clicking and dragging, and it's resizing all my track heights. So again, I like the ruler. It's really quick, and the presets are great for my purposes. And then there's even one more place to do it, and that's this little drop-down menu here, Track Options, and that will also have the sizes there. Okay, last thing is markers. Now this is super useful. I love markers. I use them all the time. They're so nice to have. Just so you know, Pro Tools can store 999 memory locations. So that includes markers, but it also includes things like track presets and selections that you've saved and various other things. So 999 memory locations on the wall. To add one, there's a couple different ways. You want to make sure that the marker's ruler is visible. And remember, we can use the librarian menu to easily find that. Right now, markers is checked. So if we want to do it with a dialog box, we can use the plus, and you'll get a dialog box for the memory location. And it will number them automatically. So it's good to build these from left to right if you're doing markers. Currently, it looks like 15 must have been free because there's already some markers in here. And then I'm going to choose marker. We'll deal with selection and some other things later, but the main thing to deal with right now is just, do I want a number for it? Do I want to assign a number? Maybe I'm just going to call it 1 if it lets me. Is 1 available? It might give me a hard time. You can name it while you're here. My marker. Maybe we'll call this verse or chorus or bridge or whatever you might need. I'm going to call it intro 2 or something just because I know there's already one called an intro in there. I'm going to keep it as a marker, and I can choose how it remembers that location. Do I want it linked to a bar and beat, or do I want it absolute to a specific point in time, right? 3 seconds in or 5 seconds in. That's totally up to you. I'm going with bar beat because it's a musical thing rather than, say, location for a spoken word thing where you know you need something at exactly 29 seconds or something. So I'm going to hit OK. And I did get an error, so I'm going to put this back at, was it 15 that it gave us automatically? I'm just going to go back with and OK. Cool, and there's that intro to marker right there. Now, if I want to start playback there, I can really easily just click on it and then hit play, and it'll go right to that spot. That's really nice. I can also add a marker by clicking anywhere I want, right? And then hitting the enter key on the numeric keypad will automatically bring up the same dialogue at that location. So we're going to call this intro 3. We've got a lot of intros in this song. Same settings otherwise, and I'm just going to hit OK. And now I've got another intro here linked to the place that I had clicked right here. And that works with the selection too. It'll just pick the beginning of your selection. You can also do this during recording or playback. So say you're listening back to something, and it's still just soloing that guitar track, right? But say we hear like an error right here, and we go, oh, we're going to need to come back and edit that. So I hit the enter key, the dialog box will come up, but playback will not stop, and neither will recording, right? And then I go, might need to fix or something, and then just hit OK. I can hit enter again actually, and then I've got that marker at that spot the moment that I clicked it, wherever it went wrong, right? And then I can come back and fix it. Now if we want to remove these, you can option click. Remember, that's the reverse tool. I can option click the marker, right? So once we fixed it, or maybe I don't need intro 3, what was I thinking? Option click on the marker, and that will get rid of it. We can also make selections with markers. I can click this intro and select up to intro 2 if I want. So I click intro, and then I shift click the next one that I want. So maybe verse 1 here. And now I have a selection that goes exactly from intro to verse 1 right there. So that's really useful too. So again, that's click your first marker and then shift and click the next marker, and it will select everything in between, the next marker that you want, the ending point marker. Cool. And last thing, you can see all of them together in the window. So if I click window menu and then I go down to memory locations, I will see a little window of all the memory locations in my session, and I can actually go to them right from this window. So if I want to jump to one of these moments, like, oh, we need to talk about the bridge. So I go, no problem. I've got my memory locations open, and I can click bridge and it will go right to that spot, right to that marker, which is really cool. And you'll notice there's a whole bunch of other things saved in here, which we'll talk about later. So selection, zoom, all kinds of good stuff like that. I think track height's in there. There's all kinds of good stuff, right? So you can really, really customize a view and come exactly back to that view with a memory location. So we'll learn how to do that, but right now we're just going to stick to general markers. So I can also delete them from here, so maybe I don't need that intro 2 that I made. I can pull this drop down and go clear intro 2, and now that marker location is gone. Remember, 999 of these different types of memory locations that you can keep. So there's another great way to get through these markers from the keyboard. If you've made your markers sequentially, Pro Tools will number them 1, 2, 3, 4 in order. These aren't that way. This one, for instance, is 21. This next one is 22. So at least they're kind of in order. So if I want to play back from, say, the beat one, which was number 22, hopefully it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, if you're clever about how you number these. There's a trick for getting to those. So remember, you have 999 possible places. So the way to get to that is on the numeric keypad. You type the period, like the point, so like 1.0. So that period on the numeric keypad. And then you type the number of the location. So that can be anything between 1 and 999. And then you type the period again so it knows, oh, you're done typing numbers. So if I want 22, I go period, 22, period again, and notice it jumped right to that beat location. See, I've now selected that spot in the timeline. So my end point is now there. And then let's guess that this is 23 dot 23 dot. Ah, and there it is. There's my spot. Cool. So that's it for markers. They're super useful. There's more things that you can save in memory, but for now we'll just deal with adding markers for sections in your song that you may need to get to quickly. So not a ton of music in that video, but a lot of really useful features of the program that will make your sessions so much more efficient if you learn them. So even though it might seem a little tedious, this stuff is really useful and worthwhile. So hopefully it'll all stick very soon, and I'll see you in the next one.